it's supposed to enhance your preparedness, your training, your working with everybody. If we have an incident and you as chair of selectmen, we're introducing ourselves at the incident scene, you know, right there, we've lost a lot of time. But by working with department heads and training, when something does happen, then you know you're already your partners. I mean, there's the planning, there's the plan, but when something happens, it's the partnerships that really work. We've really enhanced all of that. And the other thing you did mention, I mean, the plan review time, inspection time. The further you are away, you're on a list, and you're not going to get the response time. Yeah, some things can wait. I mean, we do triage like anything, anybody. Fire department does triage. We know when we have to roll out of there. But just general good service to people. Daily, we're being asked to look up Title V records and to say, you know, what do you think, and give them information back, and educate the public. We're there as partnerships. We also, just while I'm here, and since this is a good opportunity, I mean, we talked about hazardous waste collection. We could have just, when I came on board, we could have just said, oh, $7,000, just pay for that, we'll mobilize every year, we'll do it once a year. We partnered with Gardner, and it's working well. They do it at the landfill, it's right over the line, it's on 68, so we do it twice a year for half the money. We do bulky waste collection 4 times a year. Doesn't show up on the tax base, that's all self-funded. We sell compost bins, rain barrels, kitchen scrap buckets, tick twisters, which doesn't sound like a lot. For every compost bin that we sell, that means there's less organic waste going in the trash. Every tick twister we sell means someone's taken a tick off that they might not come down with Lyme disease, which is very prevalent here. Every rain barrel we sell saves someone somewhere money. And we do this at no cost to the town. So we're here as partners, and we're here to work with you. We're more as conscious as anybody as far as the budget goes. However, public health is not something you always can touch, like a gun for police, a hose, or a plow. You see that. What we do is prevention. By preventing bad things from happening, you're saving money. So it's like changing the oil in your car. If you don't change your oil and your engine, you break your engine, and you cost money, but you're going to spend money on the oil. We're the oil for the town. And if you look at this graphic here, and it'll just say public health is a return on investment for water safety, clean air, healthy smile, healthy mind, healthy habits, healthy eating, healthy weight. All that makes you, as a population, healthier, and guess what? Less expensive to maintain. So we're an investment, a returning investment.
Is healthy eating sugar and preservatives? That's my
Again,
main
there's
diet.
some things you still choose to put whatever in your mouth, and different people have different metabolisms.
Sugar and preservatives. I like that. Spend too much time in Germany. Julie.
Phil, I'd like to address some of your comments. You're very passionate about what you do, and you do an excellent job. That isn't the issue. The issue is looking at your budget, okay, in the whole context of the town. All right? So do we look at a 23% increase for the Board of Health, which would include a $2,000 increase in hazardous waste and bulky waste? That's what was submitted.
I don't know what numbers you're looking at. I don't see where you're getting an increase when it's a decrease. What's the number you're looking at?
You have an earlier sheet.
Okay.
They have since submitted a 2% reduction.
Okay, good.
So, and again, that first budget
Right.
was done, we do not do anything unless we're directed.
Okay.
So we were directed to put in a 1.5 COLA by email from Jeff,
Right.
CC to Will, and steps if we were entitled, which we were. So that's that budget that you're looking at. If you look at version 1.2, which is that's the one we're on right now, it's going to show the 2% cut from again, we're still being told 40 hours until we're told otherwise.
Right.
That's the number we're putting in, but it's got no COLAs and no steps.
The point I'm trying to make is that as a board, we have to weigh, do we want a night shift on the police department versus public health services? Or what extent to public health services? It has to be put into context for the whole town. And I know it feels like an attack, but it's not an attack. It's simply looking at the money that we have. People want a plan. We can't make a plan until we know what direction
I get
we're
that.
going.
And
Okay.
I do say, go back to when this all started in 2012. Look at our budget then, and look at the numbers, and look at what we've done institutionally since that time, and those numbers are still in place. Those changes that we made until the next trash bid, which we still have another year, that was $6,000 a year savings. The monitoring account was, in the past, $20,000. This year it's $5,000. And again, every time you tweak, there's a danger that it's gonna blow up. But we did that incrementally since 2012. Consciously, too.
Again, I was just, yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's part of the problem with making, as well, general recommendations. Everybody cut 5%, everybody cut 2%, because there are some departments that have already gone out of their way to cut $60,000, $70,000 from their budget, where other departments have kind of been allowed to, because they do services that we deem more important. They haven't made those same cuts, but we expect departments that have already cut deeply, just because it's easy to say everyone just cut 2% or everyone cut 5%. And this has been brought up before, and I would just like to bring it up again. Our operating budget is a little more than $4.5 million. We spend more than $1 million on insurance. We've brought up the insurance committee getting together several times. There's no forward movement on that at all. That's 20% of our budget, but we're going to take an hour to rake someone over the coals about numbers that are incorrect in their budget, that the numbers aren't even right that we're questioning them about. And I just think that this is it's not the best use of our time when we are so close to a deadline where the whole government's going to shut down. You know, we spent this time discussing agreement that we cannot even be part of if the correct person was talked to in the first place to find out if we could be a part of.
We contacted the source, the National Shober Associated Boards of Health, and that was the response they got. They were not sure if we could even belong. And it's merely asking a question, because if you don't ask a question, you don't get an answer.
We should ask the Board of Health people that are elected to deal with it, maybe ask them first.
Yes.
So now,
Yeah,
when
I
does
just
the
have-
town actually decide if they are going to need an override?
What's that now?
When is the town going to decide if they actually need to do an override?
We have a date for a special town meeting and a time for it.
Okay.
Because we contacted the town clerk and she gave us an answer, so that is coming. And that would be when that question would be put to the voters.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone have any other questions for me?
I don't.
Yeah, I'm here.
Anyone else?
No.
All set.
Thank you for letting me respond.
No problem. The next item on the agenda is the interim town administrator. We met with him last week. He will be here on the 27th. And I put this on here so that the board look at the budget versus actual, so we all have an idea of what's left in the salary account of the town coordinator. So if the board decides to make an offer, and he has indicated, you know, it's something he can do, very qualified, and he will be here Mondays, and I'd just like, you know, be prepared. So, you know, we have the dollar figure that we know what's in there. So if we talk about hours and pay, we'll all be, we'll have the right number, and we'll all have an idea of where we are financially. So we can get someone in here, you know, to do the day-to-day stuff that we really need, and I believe he would be a big help moving on the budget, why we move forward on looking for and hiring a full-time administrator. If anyone has anything.
This would be a part-time town administrator, not town coordinator.
Yes, an interim town administrator. We have the job description, that's what we're looking for, and that's what we need. I think we need, you know, an interim administrator, since we have created that position, and we have a job description for it. So, again, it was no real action, it just to have an open public meeting, discussion, you know, that he will be here Monday. He will be on the first item up.
Have we received any other resumes?
For an interim? No, we didn't get. I'm not even sure how he through the network, this small town administrators network that Jeff, you know, contacted, and I believe when he went to the meeting about the Worcester County retirement, a lot of administrators were there, and, you know, word just gets out among that group, and he heard about it and called.
And he's I think would be a very, very good candidate. Just curious if anyone else had shown any interest.
We had not. I think Jeff had reached out to a few in a not too far off area that had, there's several that had been in the paper recently that for one reason or another had lost their job and moved out, and we didn't get anything from them. So he will be here on the 27th at 6:30. So. All right, discuss special town meeting date and time. At our meeting, we instructed Jeff, one of his last things, to talk with the town clerk about possible dates. And Carol got back. Thursday, March 6th and Saturday, March 8th are both available to hold a special town meeting. That would be the school. Carol also spoke with the moderator, who stated that Saturday, March 8th would work best for him. Carol is suggesting that we have a special town meeting on Saturday, March 8th at 9 a.m. So, again, we have, as far as using the certified free cash as an option, we do not have a number at this time, but hopefully before March, we would know. And if we don't, then we will just have to present the options minus that at that time. I believe she also stated that we can schedule a special town meeting and we could cancel it easy until the warrant is posted. Once the warrant is posted, we have to have the meeting. However, if for some reason it's determined that you don't need it, then you can just skip over, you know, make no motions on any of the warrant articles and then just dissolve the meeting. Those were the, just FYI from the town clerk. If, like, you know, I don't know, the town won the lottery or something, and we didn't have to have a special town meeting, but once the warrant is posted, we have to convene the town meeting. And if for some reason you don't need to do anything, you just pass over all the motions. So Yes.
My only suggestion would maybe be 10 a.m. instead of 9. We might get a little better turnout, but that would be my only. I'll take the clerk at her word that the Saturday. And the Saturday meeting may be good practice since our annual is on Saturday to get people in the feeling joyous about having Saturday meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that 10 might be better, but if we start too late, then, I mean, if we want to make an opportunity for the school to be able to do some sort of fundraiser with food or whatever, if you start too late in the morning, then you're going to have to take a break right away in order to make, you know, a lunch kind of break, so, you know, I don't know, it's kind of a, what's best, start a little earlier and have more opportunity, or start later so that you might have more people come. But I also agree it's probably best to do it on a Saturday.
Okay. 10 a.m. for attorneys to sleep in. I just like bugging.
I would.
And there again, I don't know if Carol or the moderator picked, suggested 9 a.m. I don't believe we had. I know we had suggested for an annual town meeting of a start time of about 9:30, I believe, but we were looking for was dates. So if we want to go with 10, I suppose we certainly could. The school's available those days, the moderator's available.
I think if we vote to hold the special town meeting on March 8th, we should hold off on opening the warrant. I don't think we should open it tonight, but I think we should call the date for the special town meeting.
March 8th, we have, we have a couple of weeks.
Yeah. You have to.
So, and I see, so,
So I will make a motion to the effect that we will have schedule a special town meeting on March 8th, Saturday, March 8th, to begin at 10 a.m.
okay, motion made
Second?
and seconded. Now, and that would be 10 a.m. Any discussion? Selectmen?
No, not yet. Sorry.
You look like, you just look like you had a thought.
I'm processing it.
Okay.
In my head.
Him, then you, then us.
If an override is part of the potential solution for us, what are the requirements for planning and scheduling that? So that we don't end up having a town meeting and then having a delay in terms of getting to the ballot box for an override, should that be part of the solution?
If we do an override at the special town meeting, the annual election, that question could be put on there, so we wouldn't have to have another election after the annual town meeting.
And that would fit in with the requirements?
Yes, or you can have it at the annual election and then have the question at the town meeting. As long as you have both, the order doesn't matter. It's just an override, you have to have a ballot question, and then you have to have a town meeting vote as well.
So if the town meeting is scheduled for March 8th, and the town election is May,
Yeah, I think the 6th or
we potentially, if an override is part of the solution, we potentially have 2 months where we're in limbo? That seems like.
unless you want to have.
If we're committed, if we feel that an override is part of the solution, not getting that decided and implemented as soon as we can, and having to wait 2 months after the town meeting, seems like we're exposing ourselves to, what do we do
The
now?
alternative is to have another election and pay for another election, and then potentially a few weeks later, have another election. It's.
Pay me now, or you can,
Well, that's looking at like 15 grand. That we don't have.
it just seems like.
And that doesn't guarantee you the override passes, so then you spent 15 grand to get, I know you can't get the answer until you ask the question, but,
I'm just concerned
Yeah.
that should an override pass a town meeting, and then 2 months later fail, at the ballot box, what recourse does the town have then?
Then you just cut the budget really, really hard. Unless the certified free cash comes in big enough to offset real steep budget cuts. It is like a rock in a hard place, but is that.
I know,
I just want to,
you're not sure of certified free cash because it hasn't been certified yet. My question is, are you sure of the dollar amount we're going in on town meeting floor of our shortfall yet?
pretty high number is 505. I think that was checked by both Matt and our town accountant a couple of times. And again, that was back in like mid-November.
Yeah, it's November, that's why I'm just kind of.
So it was, that meeting on the 13th when that was, disclosed at a public meeting, it had been, they looked at it a couple times because they didn't want to come out and say, hey, we have a shortage of this amount, and then go back over the numbers and find it again, so.
So that's where it's saying right now, there's no update to an increase?
Not as of this afternoon, when I received an email from the town accountant.
He actually asked the question I was going to ask, but if either the ballot or the town meeting vote fails, it's a cut of the results.
If the ballot failed, just for instance, say the ballot fails and the town meeting passes, you could in theory, not theory, but you can have an election to ask the question again.
Oh, so
Which has been
so
done.
repeat another.
Yeah, you would repeat the election. Since it passes town meeting, that's, I guess, the nice thing about it. If, you have the election first, and if it was to pass and then, it fails at town meeting, you could have schedule another special town meeting to ask the question again. If it fails at the ballot, you ask it at town meeting and it passes, you could then have another election to try it again.
All right.
As was done last year with the school assessment. I mean, they had, many town meetings. So it depends how many times you want to do that and how much money you're willing to spend to try to get that answer. So, Wilfred and then.
I noticed the town coordinator at a selectman meeting once spoke and said how the town auditors would like very much to come in and make a presentation. That, to my knowledge, never happened. But you do have auditors that work very hard. And there's been comments made about what a good job they did, and I'm sure they did. You have 2 town accountants who theoretically must understand the flow of money quite well, or they never would have come up with the $505,000. What is the rough estimate that these gentlemen have been able to give you as to what they expect the certified free cash to come out to?
I've asked that question and it hasn't been answered.
Why not?
His answer to the question was he wants to do details and close up 13.
Well, one of the things that bothers me, Mr. Robinson asked a question at a selectmen's meeting of one of these accountants. And he asked a very direct question. And the answer was, I have told the appropriate people. I'm sure Mr. Robinson remembers that very clearly. So did I, because I respect Mr. Robinson, because if I had been on the Board of Selectmen, I would have said, if I'm not an appropriate person, who is? So I think you should ask that question again and come up, if they can't come up with some kind of an answer, we're in real deep problem. Because if they can't come up with an answer in regards to those questions,
I don't know how we can depend on the $505,000. They know what money flows into what ends up in certified free cash. They must understand the flow. And if we're paying this money, they should have an appropriate amount. I'm very surprised that they don't. And I think you, as chairman of the board, is an appropriate person to give a fairly accurate answer to.
The only thing I wanted to say, and sorry, thank you very much. This goes back to what you had said, that one thing that after going through with the school and what we had to try to do before and we didn't know what cuts were going to be, one suggestion that I would make is that when we put together the warrant for, which I know isn't open yet, but when we do that for this upcoming special meeting, that we make it very clear that we have, we construct what we think would be the best two options and put them forward, with the language being there, if an override should pass at the ballot for this, X amount of dollars, this is what we will cut and this is what's free cash we will use. If the override does not pass at the ballot, then this is what we will do, so then we don't have to call another annual town meeting. It's right there, we've already decided. People will know when they're deciding to vote on the override or not. We are gonna cut $200,000 from the police force, $100,000. They will know exactly what the consequences are, which helps people make more informed decisions and then also takes away the necessity of having to have another special meeting, because we're not going to go back and forth. We don't have enough time. So if it fails, then this is what we're cutting. It's already done, already voted on. We'll move forward. I think that would be the best way for us to move forward. Which again, we still only have a couple months, but.
Julie, did you have your hand?
I did. If we were to call an override election right now, it takes about 60 days, 65 days to post to have an override election. If we were to do that right now, there's too many ifs. We don't know how much money to ask for because we don't have the numbers for certified free cash. That this is the information that we need to build on, okay? Having a special town meeting in March is never ideal, okay, because it's so close to the annual town meeting. You run up your costs when you have these special elections, special town meetings. There's just too much uncertainty at this point. I don't believe our accountant wants to give us a firm number until he's absolutely sure what he thinks we have as free cash. And the number that he thinks he has for free cash has to be certified by the Department of Revenue. It's a process. It's something that should have been done months ago, but it was not. So we're here now trying to deal with this situation and this shortfall in, I think, the most logical and cost-effective manner we can, given the information that we have. We're not going to make good decisions with bad information. And it's hard to wait and it's hard to be patient. But I don't think it would be prudent for us to call for an override election right now, which would almost coincide with the special town meeting, maybe a week later, when we don't know what we're asking for. And I agree with what Mr. Robinson said about having like an if-then ballot question, but I'm not sure if that's legal. I'm not sure if we can word it that way. I think we've had questions before that has been brought up, and former town council told us that we couldn't do it that way. Now, I don't know whether our town council now will tell us that we can or not. So some things that seem straightforward and logical don't end up that way.
Well,
If I may, your accountants, both of them, one of them is a certified public accountant. He does it for a lot of towns. In response to your concerns, if they do know or don't know, the issue is not that they don't do or don't know, it's the fact that you're changing from one accounting system to another. That's a very cumbersome process. Working for an industry, whenever we had a change of software, things didn't go as quickly as most people would like. In fact, I have one person on my board that's a software manager, that when you do make that change, you have to take a cross-reference. Changing from cities and towns, which is a proprietary software, and going to Vadar is very difficult. He's cross-checking everything. It's a very cumbersome process. You can criticize him for trying to take and end up making sure your money is correct, but I don't think you should be saying that he won't give you a figure, not until he has checked everything out. Now, if you want to take and end up balancing the books, even your checkbook, you can probably say, oh, I got this much money, but if you really have to take and end up going through every one of your checks, it takes a little bit of time to find out how much you really have in your checkbook. This is just a checkbook that's much, much larger than what you do on your personal finances. So I think to answer your question, that's really the issue of changing from one software to the next. Going into 14, everything is on Vadar. During 13, we're making that transition from one software to the next. And that's where the difficulty is. Because I did ask the correct questions as to why he was taking so long and is checking from Vadar to the other. In fact, that was the issue during 12 when even the DOR had to take it and end up looking at that.
Yes, then,
Okay, if our budget was $505,000 short, correct? Was it five?
that's the number,
Yeah.
yes.
So that seems like that would be a pretty good starting point to me, especially like running a business. Like, I understand the whole free cash thing, but when it comes to an override, if your budget's that short and you're not gonna come up with it, like, that seems like a pretty good starting point.
Oh,
Not a fun one, but
But
that
no, yeah,
seems
if
like.
we just go the override, yeah, that's the number you gotta ask for. Wilfred?
Through the chair, see, I understand the change, how difficult it is. I have no problem with that knowledge. But I don't think making a change is gonna cost you any money as far as available money. We're still short the $505,000. And the previous deputy assessor pointed out at a meeting here very strongly, and I think she was 100% correct. The real important thing now is to close the book so that you can get a tax rate. Because without a tax rate, we're really in a tough situation. And John Brooks at a meeting made a point to say that the assessor's work has been done. We're up to date. And I think that the real emphasis should be placed, as Sue Burns said, on closing the books so that you can get a certified tax rate. And the changeover in programs, great, I have no problem with that. But I think maybe the accountants and people emphasis should be more on closing the books so we can get the tax rate. And it seems like we're and we should be concerned about converting over. But that's not gonna change the $505,000 problem.
I sent an email, I asked the question, when is 13 closed, when would it be closed? And his guesstimate was the end of this month.
And I would like to add one more thing, excuse me, Mr. Brooks. And this, what I'm gonna say is, in a way, very inappropriate, and I recognize it. I was very taken when Mr. Brooks made the comment that the assessor's job work has been done. And quite obviously, he was right. What I'm very concerned about in your planning, and why I say this is inappropriate because it can be said by many boards, I'm going to tell you, and my experience was way in the past, if you do not get any additional help in the Board of Assessors, so that a year from now, that John Brooks or whoever is speaking for the Board of Assessors can come before the Board of Selectmen and say our work is done, I guarantee you that the chances are great, if you don't get some help in the Board of Assessors, they will not be prepared 1 year from now, because there's too much work for one person. If that one person is taken sick, and there's no backup, you have one of the biggest problems that this town will ever encounter, because they will not be able to say, they have to be able to say, this is the total valuation of the town, this is the total taxable valuation of the town. This is our levy limit, and we all forget, we have a lot of people talking. People forget that January 1 is the tax date for the financial year that begins July 1. And what is taxable on July 1 is very important, because that's the taxable date. You have one person in the Board of Assessors. And on top of it, you've got people filing for excise tax rebates and all that work. It's not going to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know it's inappropriate, but I think it has to be said.
I don't think it was inappropriate at all, and I always value your opinion. Yes.
And not to belabor the point, but I think this is why it was important to have that honesty and upfront, candid discussion way back when this problem came to light. So just today, we decided permitting temporary borrowing, because we don't have a tax rate set, so we don't have any revenue. So we're paying interest on what, $2.5 million? I think $2.6 million. 2.6 million we're paying interest on. If the forensic accountant had, and I believe we were not told the end of February at that meeting, way back then. We were told, 2 weeks. It would be done in weeks. And we got an email today from the accountant saying it could be months, but we'll discuss that at the end of the meeting. But one thing that the problem that it caused by that not knowing that the problem is occurring because treasurer and accountant's books are not reconciled, we don't have this, and that didn't come out right away. That money that we are now wasting on interest, we could have requested that some money be spent on an assistant maybe for the CPA, so that we could get the books done on time, so that instead of spending this money on interest, we could have had our books closed on time, instead of just now dealing, and we could have proactively handled it if we would have known the full extent of the situation, instead of now just reacting to it by paying interest on millions of dollars. Granted, it's low interest, but it's still 2.6 million. It's a lot of money to be paying interest on.
Anything else? All right.
Jeff,
Yes.
is it true that we can't adjourn a town meeting until we have a balanced budget?
You mean
An annual town
dissolve?
meeting?
Didn't dissolve the meeting? I know the town has to balance its budget, but you can dissolve it, correct?
Yeah, that's why you always go back to another special town meeting,
Right.
as Julie will be very aware.
That's why historically, a lot of times, like Winton just had one at the end, we've traditionally had one in like October or so.
Yeah,
You
you
do
know-
all that financial cleanup that you
Right,
get,
you
because
have to go
sometimes the
back and
state
clean
doesn't
up.
get their act together. Like the school at the last minute,
The
they had,
veterans bill.
chapter 70 money, because they come up with a budget and then they argue down there, so the town's dependent on all that state aid. It doesn't come till after June 30th, when the town meetings, you have to have a town meeting between February and June 30th. If you don't have all your, state aid that you count on, you temporarily borrow, and then when that comes in, you take care of it. But now, you do have to balance, but you can dissolve the meeting. CDBG.
No, we need to vote.
Oh, that's right. That's right, we never did that. All right. 10 a.m.?
Diane? On the 8th.
Okay. At 10 a.m. All right. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. the CDBG grant, we did vote on the goals and everything. And Mr. Sanborn spoke on, he said this was important to get this out there because this helps put pressure and speaks well that the town is in fact interested in it, and this helps pass it sometimes and shows interest. And I believe as it was, we voted as it was written for the priority. High priority was the water service, surface infrastructure, senior focused, excuse me, consolidated municipal buildings, and consolidate elementary schools. Excuse me. And another thing that he talked about was a survey, and this is, I received this in the mail, and on one side it explains what the grant is about. Communities Opportunities Group is the person, the group lead, the entity leading, taking the lead on this. And it explains the survey and the reasons. And on the back, it has East Templeton Housing Rehabilitation Program. It's a survey. And it asks, when was your house built? How many housing units are in your building? How would you describe the condition of your house or apartment? Which of the following needs repair in your home? And it has roofing, electrical, plumbing, painting. Describe other repairs that are needed. Do any of the following apply to you? Are you disabled, female-headed household, elderly, 62 and above, minority? Should Templeton establish an East Templeton housing rehab program? Would you be interested in participating in it? And optional, and again, you don't have to give this if you don't want to. It asks for your household size and your annual household income. And then it asks, could the town contact you for more information? And if you want to, you can give your name and address, or you can just fill this out, and it comes with an envelope addressed to Community Opportunities Group. You don't have to name, you don't have to do your income. But again, he emphasized that the more of these that they get back, that you're interested in having this done in East Templeton and having this grant proceed, it just gives them data to take, to present when they file for the grant, that there's a lot of residents that are interested in this and requesting this happen. And I guess it gives weight to the grant. So they asked that people do this, fill these out, because it does help. So I thought I would put this on here. It gets recorded. People watch the meetings on TV. And as we do with announcements for other committees and boards, I thought this was important to put this on here, just to put it out there again, to remind people if they've gotten these, you fill them out. And I believe is it middle of February when the grant is going in, which we voted on already as a board to do. It's just I wanted to touch on this and bring this up again to remind people. And you don't have to give your name and address. You don't have to give your income if you don't want to. But it's just a good thing to say, your house and this, and do you want this to happen in your part of town?
Did those surveys just go to the people in East Templeton? Because I don't recall getting them.
Yeah, they went to.
So we're not eligible to, I live in Templeton.
Yeah.
No, what they did was make a target area, and the target area was East Templeton.
Okay, so.
So you're not gonna get, I live in Baldwinville, I'm not gonna get one, okay?
All right, that's
But,
fine.
and there were two different types of surveys as well.
Yeah. no,
So
I-
not everyone got the same kind.
Okay, thank you.
But we should probably, if you know anybody that lives in East Templeton, it'd be, behoove you to tell them,
Oh, yeah,
fill out
sure.
your survey and get it sent in.
Yeah, I agree.
And again, some people have stopped and asked me, said, what is this? Do I have to fill this out? And I explained to them, because, some people hadn't seen it. So I just thought it was important to put the board did vote for the goals, the priority of the goals as submitted. What Mr. Sanborn said, it was important to get this because they use it to add weight to the grant application. So I just put it on here just to bring this up and put it out there again to people as a reminder. If you do get the survey, fill out what you're comfortable with, and just, again, there's an envelope that comes with it, all self-addressed and everything, and mail it back to them.
I believe the drop-dead date, the grant has to be in by February 14th, Valentine's Day, but he needs this information. They need the surveys, letters of support. Anyone can write a letter from support, not just people in East Templeton. So if you write a letter of support, that helps the grant application as well to be successful. So the more surveys that they get back, the more points you get. It's all based on a point system, so.
And if you do want to write a letter, it's Community Opportunities Group, Inc., 129 Kingston Street, floor 3, Boston, Mass. 02111. And they are asking that they be there no later than January 29th, 2014. And just, filling out this survey or sending in a letter of support, it doesn't obligate you in any way to let somebody come in your house or work on your house or look at your house or anything. It's just showing that you're aware of it, that you support this, and you'd like to see it happen. So I thought it was important enough to put on the agenda again, just to put the information out there, to try to get as much support for it as possible. The next thing is a contract for the senior center electrical work. And I will let Selectman Morrison, Doug, speak on this.
Okay, the senior center project is still moving along. So we're making some progress. We've had a lot of, volunteers working on Saturdays and helping out, and it's, kept things rolling. We did go out to, for quotes, we put out an RFQ for the electrical work. And we only got one respondent, Poirier Electric out of Leominster. They quoted $23,760. So the committee voted to request the selectmen to award the electrical contract to Poirier Electric in the amount of $23,760.
I will make a motion that the town award the electrical contract to Poirier Electric for the senior center, not to exceed $23,760.
I'll second.
Did that? Seconded?
I think Ken did.
Okay.
All these bids, you've got money in the tractor project. A couple of weeks ago, you gave out some bids. Is this an extra from the other project, is it?
From,
All this bid, 2 weeks ago, you gave out some
Yeah.
bids. Now tonight, another $23,000.
Yeah.
Is this extra money above and beyond the original money?
no, it's still part of the original money. Yeah.
It's in the budget.
I'm gonna ask.
No, the
Make a
senior,
face, I'm gonna ask.
the senior oversight committee has been very, very frugal and very cost conscious with
I don't think so.
the small amount of money that they were given to work with. Anything else?
No.
You all set?
Yes.
All right, hearing none, saying none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. All right. Selectmen's comments, reports, future agenda items. Any comments on anything from selectmen?
I just want to remind people that they can make voluntary tax payments toward their assessment once we finally set a tax rate and you get a bill. So you can pay ahead of time and you're not penalized for that. And that helps the town out. We're not going to come up with 2.5 million that way. Every little bit helps at this point.
Doug?
I don't really have any comments, but I do have 3 future agenda items that I would like to see very soon, if not, maybe not Monday, but certainly very soon. The town administrator, we need that search committee to be formed, and I do think that one needs to be, if not Monday, the following Monday.
It is.
I think we should reconsider or consider putting in another CPC application for East Templeton. If we don't ask, you're never gonna get it if you don't ask, so it's not gonna cost us anything to put in another application. And we have to do that very soon, though. We have to do it by their next meeting, which is in early February.
February 6th.
Yeah, so it would probably need to be next Monday if possible. I mean, I'll be glad to go to the meeting and submit the application. I have what Will put in last year, so I think we can just expound on that. And then we also need to have on the agenda relocating out of this facility. I mean, I don't think it's any longer in the town's best interest to continue leasing this facility, and we've got to have a plan come July 1st. Whether that's moving into East Templeton, consolidating into the other buildings that we have, when people sit on each other's laps, whatever it takes. Maybe we do shift. Somebody works, in the morning for this department, and in the afternoon it's another department in that room. So those are the 3 things that I'd like to see on the agendas relatively soon.
All right. Diana?
Well, I'd like to say thank you. I'm happy to be here. And I would like to just ask a couple of questions. The surveys that you talked about, do we find out like how many were returned or how many people that they went to, just to get an idea of how many came back? Like who would have answered them? You might not know that right now, it's just a question. Like, would you be able to find that out?
We should, I would think.
Do they
we
tell you that?
Would be able to from Mike.
Okay.
Mike Pink Pink.
And then Will brought up a point that I guess I didn't know, that we have a disproportionate representation for Templeton in our part of the school district, and I'd like to know why. How do we find that out, or is that standard, or I would like to know.
That was an ad hoc decision that night.
Well, I guess I'm just asking how, either can we have more representation, or is that, I guess I'd like the answer to that. That's one question.
Yep.
And then, sorry, I need a couple of notes. And then Mr. Dennis brought up about, I remember being at a meeting where I thought that the town accountant who's doing it right now would come back and just speak. I think that people are still wanting answers. I know you're all answering them up here, but to come from that person, to know and speak to the people and give a presentation, I think that's what you said, Mr. Dennis, that would be a good idea prior to obviously to the special town meeting, and hopefully we'll have some good numbers by then, and I think that the people want to hear that. So those are my few things.
The disproportionate number, was that the budget subcommittee or?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't
I
write
just
all that
didn't know
down,
that
but
the
yes,
school-
it was
okay.
Budget
to what,
subcommittee.
I guess that was a little bit of a shock to me, so I would like to know, have an answer to that, or I think we should have more
Because
representation.
we have 5 people
Yeah,
representing us on the school committee, and 2 from Phillipston, and it's disproportional as far
right.
as.
okay.
Well, I can that would be one of my reports. I also was in attendance at the budget subcommittee meeting, and the decision wasn't ad hoc. Ad hoc means that she just made it up right there. It's been this way. This is the breakdown that it's been for going back years, at least the last several years, 3 or 4 years. This has been the breakdown. It doesn't mean though that it's right.
I believe, according to I think it goes along, maybe it goes along the lines of the school committee makeup, which is part of the district agreement. And I know there's been push on that.
Right,
the
so
numbers-wise.
obviously Templeton isn't going to have equal representation because, I mean, we pay 6 times more than Phillipston does, so even if Phillipston only sent 1 Board of Selectmen member, would have to send 6 selectmen to have proportional representation. So that's not going to happen, but I definitely would understand having, and looking into the possibility of having an additional select board member, and perhaps an additional Board of Selectmen member from Templeton on that subcommittee. One caveat to that is the decision of the subcommittee is not legally binding, so the school committee can take the subcommittee's budget that's been put together and throw it away. Traditionally, that has never happened. They usually adopt what the subcommittee recommends, so I do think that it is appropriate to look into maybe getting 1 additional person, because again, we're not going to have total proportional representation. We also, I don't think, we wouldn't have 5 people, and that's our entire board, advisory board, sitting at that table. I don't think that's really what the purpose of sending a rep is, but I would understand increasing the numbers. Also, my second item was the Board of Selectmen received an email today, and I even checked it on my phone to make sure I wasn't hallucinating or something, that from the town accountant saying that unless the Board of Selectmen authorizes additional spending for Matt Angel to spend more time here, it could be months, the word he used, before FY13 is closed out. Months. So I think that this is something that we definitely need to have on the agenda I know that we just adopted procedures that said that we would close the agenda on Tuesday of the week preceding the meeting, but as yesterday was a holiday, we didn't have a chance to discuss this. So I would think that maybe we should consider putting this as an agenda item like right away. Since we were, again, at that meeting we had way back in December, we were told it would be weeks, then we were told it would be the end of February.